You wake up from a bad night's sleep. The sun has risen and is suddenly in your face. It blinds you and instantly makes you grumpy. For a second, you wish it didn't exist or was replaced with something else. Okay, wish granted, but we're not going to replace it with just another star. We will have fun and see what happens when we replace it with the most extreme space objects in the universe. Let's start with a twin sunrise. Ever heard of that? As you hated one sunrise waking you up, let's double down and make it two. See, turns out the solar system is weird with only one sunrise and one sunset. Most stars in the galaxy have at least two stars. They are what we call binaries or multi-star systems. So what would happen if we became one of those binary systems and added a second sun? Well, on Earth you'd have two shadows, two sunrises, two sunsets, and at least two pairs of sunglasses. Oh, and the nights would be way shorter. But depending on where the suns were placed, things could get kinda wild. For example, the sky could change color every few hours, from blue to red, maybe purple if they overlap. Instagram would explode, but so would your calendar. The seasons? Gone. Orbits of the planets? Screwed. Weather patterns? They'd need a dice roll to predict them. Earth would change between heatwave hell and ice age in a matter of months. It wouldn't kill you instantly, but the inconsistency would kill agriculture, infrastructure, climate stability, and global sanity. Whatever's left after 2025, that is. But still, it's manageable. Until you run out of food, and the planet starts to dehydrate, and in the end the only thing left alive would be any beings that eat through photosynthesis. But this is what would happen if they were relatively close together, which is still quite optimistic considering the Earth would eventually get too close and just incinerate. The real catastrophe would happen if the stars were a bit further apart. See, you'd start slingshotting around each star back and forth, and this would send the Earth into permanent extreme heat within a few years, or even months, assuming you lived through the whiplash of a gravitational slingshot. The good news is, though, within 10 years, if you were to survive all of that, Earth would be slung out of the worst carnival ride of all time, and temperatures would go back to the average we know today, except there'd be no light, and it would last only a few weeks, and then freeze permanently. So okay, maybe that wasn't the best idea. What if we replaced it, though, with something that doesn't make the Earth a rogue planet? What if, instead of double suns, we try two massive blue stars, physically touching? Meet VFTS 352. And no, it's not just a binary system, it's a shared atmosphere death spiral. Two blue giant stars around 28 and 35 times the mass of the sun, and now they've gotten so close that they're in the process of merging. And they shine with the amount of 180,000 and 150,000 suns respectively. So if they did replace the sun, Earth wouldn't just heat up, it would vaporize before you could say, what a pretty blue sunset. Radiation, at least a few Chernobyls. A few hundred. Trillion. And against that amount of UV radiation, not even factor 2000 sunscreen would help for even a microsecond. And the cows, well, instantly well done steaks. Like how your neighbor always overcooks it next door. Eventually, these two stars would fuse and most likely go full supernova. So you wouldn't just die. You'd be obliterated with a spiraling Earth into base elements before your brain even processed what was happening. But even that might not be the most extreme scenario. Well, oh boy, do I have an amazing sunrise just for you. What if we replace the sun with the absolute largest star known to humans, or that is even physically possible in the Milky Way? People thought it was Stephenson 218, but that had some very flawed data. It's actually more likely to be a star with an even better name, RSG C1F01. This is an absolute unit of a star, and we're not talking about the obese cats that are shown on Reddit. This is a red supergiant around 1,500 times the radius of our sun, likely the largest known star by volume, close to what could be considered the genetic limit. Basically, Mr. Olympia. If RSG C1F01 replaced the sun, the surface of it would stretch past Jupiter's orbit, which means the Earth would already be inside the star, and the resulting gravitational pull would absorb and destroy the entire solar system. However, if we found a way to move humanity to Pluto first, we'd be able to survive for about a week and get a small period of time with decent weather, no rain, but a toxic atmosphere. So you'd of course need spacesuits to see without being blinded and to breathe, but if you did manage to breathe in the atmosphere, it would smell like Miami spring break pool parties and death. After this week or so has gone by, and that's optimistic, the star's heat would murder you. Then gravity would suck you in like all the other planets and obliterate everything you've ever known before going hypernova. Yeah, not a supernova, hypernova, which means the energy from the explosion is 10 times more powerful, if you can even imagine that. So wait, does that mean size actually matters? I guess my wife was lying to me. Wait, you think it's funny, Kyle? Time for another extreme space object, and to prove a point, I will show you that size doesn't matter. Say hello to NGC 2363V1. This is a luminous blue variable hypergiant, located about 11 million light years away in another galaxy. The important word there is variable. See, it's not the most massive and not the biggest, it's just a star having the biggest emotional freaking meltdown you can observe in real time. And currently, it's in the middle of what astronomers call an outburst. This thing is falling apart and screaming while doing it. So if you swapped it in place of the sun, you wouldn't see a pretty sunrise. You'd go blind instantly, even from behind 5 feet of concrete. Even Pluto would be uninhabitable from radiation alone. However, maybe there is a habitable zone that we could simply move Earth to. You want to try that? Of course you do. You don't want to die, do you, Kyle? If the Earth is currently what we call 1 astronomical unit away from the sun, to survive this star, we'd have to be 2,512 AUs away from it. The problem with that is the variable mentioned before. The luminosity or brightness jumps from 790,000 times to over 6.3 million times that of the sun over the course of a year. Maybe a few years. It's honestly more unpredictable than the New York subway. This means that the habitable zone shifts massively in either direction depending on which mood the star has. And because NGC has nothing to do with Earth's tilt like the sun does, there would be no seasons. Part of the planet would be amazing, part of it would be frozen, and another part of it would be July in Dubai. Permanently. Living here would feel like the Earth was being controlled by a toddler using a light switch. What's that, Kyle? Sick of dying to the bright stars, the fat stars, and even the living stars? What about then? Extreme star corpses, like a neutron star. A neutron star is what's left when a massive star dies and collapses under gravity, but those failures weren't smart enough to become a black hole. No wonder they are made of what's called degenerate neutrons. They're around the mass of the sun, crushed into a sphere around 22 kilometers wide. The density would be the same as taking Mount Everest, compressing it into the size of a Lego brick, and then launching it through your chest at rocket speed. Or someone else's chest if you want. But because it's so small, everyone on Earth would think, okay, no heat, I guess we just freeze. Well, yes, sometimes, but also no. See, the gravity is around 200 billion times Earth's. So what happens if one appears instead of the sun with the same brightness? Well, Earth and every other planet would spiral into a new stable orbit that makes the average Earth temperature 120 degrees Celsius. I hope you enjoy deserts, Kyle, and lethal doses of radiation. Oh, not extreme enough for you? What if we upgrade it to a magnetar? That's a neutron star with a magnetic field 1,000 trillion times stronger than the Earth's. Imagine ordering your favorite Air Jordans before they run out of stock. And not only does the internet go down, it obliterates all magnetic fields, and all life would become a 1-minute microwaved instant meal before you get crushed by gravity anyway. Still not enough for you? Okay, have a pulsar, a neutron star that can rotate every millisecond. An example is the fastest detected, which goes 716 times a second. These emit insane radiation through jets. And if a beam were to hit you, yeah, everything would be flash radiated. But now what about kilonovas? What if you had 2 pulsars orbiting each other, spiraling in? That's a kilonova waiting to happen. As they spiral closer and begin to collide, they emit gravitational waves, ripples in space-time. But these waves aren't just ripples, they literally cause the contraction and stretching of space, which means that yes, even the Earth slightly contracts. And let me tell you, Kyle, that's a fact. And this kilonova happens when 2 pulsars finally collide. So let's assume we put them in our solar system just as that happens. The explosion ejects massive amounts of neutron soup and creates stuff like gold and platinum and uranium. The gravitational waves from the pulsars mating wouldn't tear the Earth in half, but it would make the planet flex by a full meter in milliseconds. That's enough to create sudden geyser eruptions, trigger megaquakes, and launch tsunamis before anyone even finishes saying, "What the f is that?" And at the same time, the neutron blast would vaporize the inner planets. The following radiation shockwave would sterilize anything left. Oh, and by the way, it would outshine entire galaxies for days. So your ancestors a million years from now would still be blind. And even if you somehow did survive, you are a trooper after all, aren't you? Ultimately, the gravity would suck you in and crush you again and again. That gravity will always get you. Okay. I might have lost my mind a little bit there, you know. That's what happens when I forget to take my medicine. Enough instant death, my apologies, Kyle. I'll finally give you the darkness you want by replacing the sun with an actual black hole. Yes, for the first time in a while, you'd not instantly die, if it were the mass of the sun. You'd continue on as normal for quite a while, minus any sunlight whatsoever, so in this case, yes, you'd survive, but it would be a slow freeze to death, unless you had the technology, but it's 2025, so you don't, and you will die. Yeah, I lied, because there's more deaths to come. If that black hole became 100 times the mass of the sun, the whole solar system would be sucked. And if it were the largest black hole to exist, TON 618, indeed, you would be just inside the event horizon. You would not exist. And the bigger concern would be how TON would take over the Milky Way, killing every other star in the process of shredding our galaxy and then eating our regular black hole Sagittarius in the middle. And if he wasn't already the king of the galaxies with 66 billion times the mass of the sun, he would be now. Now that's power. So yeah, we'd all be dead again, theoretically. Definitely. Maybe. But let me ask you, have you had enough so far, Kyle? Are you wondering how you ended up in so many deadly scenarios by simply wishing the sun was replaced? Well, the extreme space objects we replaced the sun with so far were all real and detected. But what if I told you that there are even more horrifying theories just waiting to be discovered? Like a quasi-star. This is a theoretical object from the early universe that makes RSG C1F01 look small. An extremely massive star, but this time with the black hole as its core. When this star collapses, instead of going full supernova, the outer layers continue feeding the black hole inside, keeping the whole thing inflated, until it runs out of material. Like that fungus that eats an ant from the inside, then keeps walking around with the body. Nasty. If we were to put that where the sun is, well, basically the same thing would happen as TON, but perhaps with a more beautiful death due to the star's hydrogen plasma around you. And last but not least, the most extreme and weirdest object we can imagine, a strange star. We are in theoretical physics hell now. A strange star is what happens when a neutron star collapses into something even denser, made entirely of what we call strange quark matter. See, quarks are the things that make our protons, neutrons, and all the shit around you. However, its behavior might be able to get more strange than Doctor Strange. Literally, these are called strange quarks. If the Earth were to come into contact with it, it could possibly convert all nearby atoms into strange matter, including your body, the Earth, and every molecule in the area. If it still exists. This isn't just death. It's literally instant space age. 1 second you're alive, next you're a puddle of quark goo. Forever. And you know who would have to clean that goo up? Jupiter.